everyone, this is my Wandavision episode 3 breakdown. If you've not seen that already, massive spoilers, so go and watch that first. Also, if you missed my episode 1 and 2 breakdowns, they're on my channel, so you could go and check those out. Flynn's gonna join us today because he's being clingy AF. We open this episode with another amazing sitcom style intro full of hexagons. I might sound like a Christian mom right now, but the repetition of these 6-sided shapes just screams the devil to me, like 666. I will die on this hill. This just backs up all of the theories that Mephisto is going to be the villain in this series. There are actually some really interesting lyrics in that intro. Flynn, I need to put you on there. You okay? Come on. Lie down. The first line I found really interesting was, "We've got something cooking and who knew we could?" And I feel like that's meant to be a reference to the fact that Vision is synthetic, but he's dead. Like, how have they got a baby? Then we get, "All great expectations lead to complications," followed immediately by, "It's groovy and fun." And similarly throughout, we get these dark parts followed by rainbows and sun, groovy and fun. These reflect to me the constant mindset switch that Wanda's having to do as she keeps getting reminded of the awful goings on outside of her pocket reality, and she's having to remind herself to be happy. Then we open on a doctor telling Wanda that she is in fact pregnant, and Vision seems really confused about how this could possibly be happening and how it could be happening so fast, which backs up his sentience in this universe. Vision also recognises that the neighbours are acting strange, with Herb using hedge cutters to cut through the wall, but Herb doesn't seem to realise that that's strange. We then get a clip of Wanda and Vision painting the nursery with Simsa paint, which is a really nice nod to Jeremy Simsa, who was the storyboard artist for Wandavision. Interestingly, the nursery has a window that should lead out to where the front door is when Wanda opens it and the butterflies fly out. But if you look at the house from the front on, the window isn't actually there. This could easily just be a set design flaw, but this is Marvel. It feels like that's a point being made. Nothing quite seems to add up in this universe. It feels like it's been manufactured by somebody who hasn't paid attention to all of the little details. The fruit that the rather sexist doctor referenced at the beginning as the different stages of baby growth is actually shown throughout the episode. So she knocks over a papaya at 5 months, she's eating grapefruit at 6 months, and then she's slicing a pineapple at 7 months. That's how we can tell the progression of the baby throughout the episode. Then in the nursery, they're discussing baby names, and we get name drops of Billy and Tommy, who are actually, in the comics, Wanda and Vision's children, the future Young Avengers. Billy, who goes by Wiccan in the comics, has reality warping abilities just like Wanda. And then Tommy, who goes by Speed in the comics, has abilities that are very similar to Quicksilver, who is Pietro, Wanda's brother, who's referenced later on in the episode. I was particularly interested in the line that Vision says when he's talking about Billy, because he's thinking about William Shakespeare, and he says,
"All the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players."
To me, this suggests that this whole thing is a stage, and all of the background characters are actually actors, and they do know what's going on. We then get one of the most pivotal moments in the show so far. Vision starts to realise that something isn't quite right, and when he says this to Wanda, she gets really upset that her constructed reality is starting to fall apart around her and rewinds it back.
I think something's wrong here, Wanda.
We then get this episode's trailer, which is actually for Hydra Soak. Now, I theorised last week that this was going to be about Ultron, but I feel like they're taking it a little bit more slowly, and they're still focusing on the moment when Strucker used the Tesseract to turn Wanda into the mutant that she is now. The fact it's a blue square definitely says to me that this is the Tesseract. That catchphrase, "Find the goddess within," really does feel like it's about Wanda's awakening of the mutant gene that's inside her into her becoming the Scarlet Witch. They also have an excellent tagline, which is, "Welcome to a world that's all your own, where all your problems float away." And I feel like that's a perfect representation of what this pocket reality is for Wanda. We then see Geraldine for the first time in this episode, and immediately the first thing I noticed is that her earrings were actually octagons, not hexagons, so it feels like she already doesn't quite fit in with this universe, but we don't know why yet. Most of us know that Geraldine is actually Monica Rambeau, who works for S.W.o.r.d, and that's why she's wearing that pendant. There is this crazy stork wandering around in the background of this scene, and Wanda's magic is actually, interestingly, ineffective against this stork. To me, that says that Wiccan, who is currently inside her at about 9 months, is already making some kind of reality warping magic. Geraldine is telling a story to Wanda about trying to cure her boss's hiccups. And she uses the phrase, trying every trick in the book to help this poor man. But she's jumping out from behind filing cabinets and helping him do a handstand. It feels like this is about tipping the world upside down to actually help Wanda escape. Except instead of curing Wanda's hiccups, she's actually trying to wake her up from this dream pocket reality. Can you chill? Geraldine then says, at that moment, the client walks in. And to me, that's almost a foreshadowing of the fact that once they've turned Wanda's whole world upside down, I think that's when the villain's going to show himself. Or herself. Or themself. And at the end of the story, Wanda says, thank you, which is a really unusual response, unless you think about it as a foreshadowing of Geraldine trying to wake Wanda up. Wanda then starts to give birth, and as she's giving birth, she says, I can't do this. And as much as that is probably what you would say as you were starting to give birth, it does feel like a reflection of her on the outside world, thinking about everyone who's been taken away from her and the fact that she doesn't feel like she can do it anymore. And then we get the support coming in from Geraldine. She's the only person there to support Wanda, saying, yes, you can. The doctor then says nothing about the fact the babies are very premature. He just moves on and says, all in a day's work. None of this is as strange to the citizens of the town as it should be. Vision is the only one who seems to think that all of this is a bit unusual. The doctor, as he's leaving the house, says, small towns, so hard to escape. By the end of this episode, we know that the town is actually covered in some sort of huge bubble that is really hard to get out of, unless you're Monica Rambeau. We then see Agnes for the first time after the opening credits, and it feels like a bit of a coincidence that she appears and the chaos ensues. Also, and this might just be a really poor fashion choice, to me she looks like she's wearing witch shoes with the big buckle on the front. In a heart-to-heart with Geraldine, Wanda then mentions Pietro, Quicksilver, for the first time. This seems to almost awaken Geraldine from some kind of spell. She then says to Wanda, he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? Wanda completely turns on Geraldine, and in these final moments, it does start to feel like Wanda is actually the villain of this story. When Wanda turns on her, Geraldine actually is visibly scared, which to me says she completely remembers what Wanda is capable of, because who would know that? And if Wanda is the villain, and she is confirmed to be in Doctor Strange, this might back up the theory that actually she's going to be the anti-hero of that story. Herb starts to let on a little bit more about how much the neighbours know. He says that Geraldine came there because they are all, and then trails off. To me, the only things that can fit there are trapped, doomed, or dead, because Vision has to fit into that we category. And we know from some of the later trailers that Agnes actually tells Vision later on that he is dead. If the ending of this sentence is dead, to me that says Wanda has made a deal with some kind of entity, whether that is Mephisto or possibly the Grim Reaper, with that helmet that we saw in episode 2's entrance credits. This is possibly why Agnes stops Herb speaking, because she's maybe working for that entity and it would be too much for Vision to know at this point. When Vision returns to the house, Wanda clearly has something in her hands that's just out of shot, but we can't see what that is, and I feel like that's an artistic choice so that we don't know what that is. It can't be the sword necklace, because actually later on we do see Monica Rambeau still wearing that sword necklace. In another classic television move, the aspect ratio then changes to reflect us moving outside of Wanda's television bubble and into the real world. But we do see a sign for Westview, which to me says it's a real place. This could possibly mean that this is an area that Wanda has taken over and not just created herself. It's possible that the townsfolk are actually the real townsfolk of that Westview town, and they're just having to play along with the charade because they have no choice. As we zoom out from the town, we see that it's under full military protection by S.W.o.r.d, as there's a logo on the van door. But we don't spot any actual Avengers, so I don't feel like this is a real threat to the outside world yet. It's rumoured that actually in the MCU, S.W.o.r.d stands for Sentient Weapons Observation and Response Department. At the moment, their focus does seem to be on observing Wanda, who is this sentient weapon. Given that Wanda has actually been called out as the strongest Avenger, it feels like it'd be really difficult for one Avenger to take her on. The most likely is Doctor Strange, and that's possibly how this series then leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We end the episode with the song Daydream Believer, which obviously is a nod to the fact she is in a dream and she does believe it, but also it's just a banger. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Obviously I'll be back next week after episode 4, and hopefully we'll start to see a bit more behind the curtain of what's actually going on.